Hey everybody, we're back and with a new name and a new way of recording. So hopefully this works. The name of the podcast is Now You're Absolutely Right. And it's a little bit inside. So if you don't get it, that's okay. It's not for you, but it's just a great name.
You gotta
It's a
listen to
domain
something
name.
else. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So we're back with Wes. Wes, how are things?
They're pretty good. It's nighttime over here, and sadly with the time change, so getting getting all used to the nighttime stuff.
Nice. We are trying to up our podcast game by improving our technology a little bit each time. So hopefully the recording quality is better, audio is better. We'll see. Today we're going to talk about a few different things. There's been more layoffs, unfortunately, and we're going to talk a little bit more about vibe coding projects. We have a cool article about data models. We might talk a little bit about Cursor's new stuff and maybe some other finds like zerogithub.com. I think for me, one of the things that came up this week, I hate to keep talking about layoffs, but there was another announcement from IBM that they're announced that they're laying off thousands of people, but it's like 1%, I think, of their workforce, so not as big as Amazon's. It didn't seem like. But then also there was a company that's kind of in our space, Liquid Web, which has, for me personally, that's the first layoff where I've known someone or maybe multiple people who've been laid off. And so seeing that on my Twitter timeline is kind of a bummer because these are people I've interacted with at conferences and know personally and know that they're great people and probably were doing a great job. And it's just a bummer to see.
Yeah.
So
Did Liquid Web
yeah,
give any reasons?
I don't know what their official reason was. No, I'm guessing it's they probably said it was just like restructuring or something. But I did
Yeah.
see that they had a Zoom call with like 50 people and we're all just like thanks, see you later. Which
Yeah.
yeah
Which is maybe better than Amazon's email. Like I think
yeah
I saw people that they get a text in the morning that says go check your email
mm,
and no phone call or anything like that. But still, there's no good way of doing it.
no. I remember when it was announced for GoDaddy as well. It was kind of like, hey, you'll know by the end of the day if it's you. And I
Yeah.
think most of the people they had already told, but there were some people that hadn't, and that was a very stressful day.
Yeah. Just sitting
So
there waiting.
there's just no good way to do it. So it's just such a bummer for everybody.
It is.
Related to that, we did see, job market sucks out there. But there was a Wes Boss tweet that you linked to, and he was asking what interviews are looking like these days. I mean, one of the things is I don't know that there even are that many interviews. From what I've seen on LinkedIn from people who have been looking for jobs for 6 months to a year without a whole lot to show for it. Probably just not a lot going on at all.
Yeah.
But we do have a selection of people that that follow Wes Boss, which is a bit of a interesting selection of people. These are more like smaller high tech companies. So not surprisingly, the interview process, some of these said were had AI questions in them and things like that. Did you see anything interesting in these
I,
comments?
Nothing crazy interesting, just like a lot of ghosting. I think kind of like what you would expect right now, where you have like an HR call and then hear nothing back or stuff like that. That just seems like not a great experience all around. Recruiters are probably scrambling to find good candidates and have and inundated with AI like resumes and candidates and stuff like that, and so they have to figure out who's real and who's not, and then just everybody's still trying to get faced with all the rejections or the ghosting from it. So yeah, I think it is
Yeah, it's tough.
bleak.
I think everybody's still figuring out what to do in this new AI world with interviews because it's pretty easy to cheat and
fake it.
have an AI telling you answers to like coding questions or helping you with algorithms and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think it remains to be seen. I think a lot of the bigger companies are very slow and have not updated anything yet, really. And the newer, startups are probably all the AI. Like
Right.
if you're not using AI coding in some unique way or some very productive way, then that's probably a big strike against you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we see Shopify and other companies like that where like we do AI in interviews, but I think we've got to remember how small of a number of companies are doing that outside of startups. But like, because I don't think GoDaddy's changed their process for interviewing with AI or anything like that, but Oracle and SAP and all Apple and all those probably haven't changed that much to actually start adopting interviewing processes with AI and encouraging the use of it so that they learn how candidates think versus what they can do. Right. So I mean, I think it's just
Mm-hmm.
going to be has to be a shift to that versus making people go home and do a project and come back and show it to them, or like return that
Mm-hmm.
project that's reviewed after the fact. That's going to be has to be adjusted to.
Yeah. I do think the old way still makes some sense because the better you are at thinking and doing things manually, the better you'll be with AI
Yep.
because it can just multiply your efforts. So maybe it's not the worst thing to continue with the older hiring processes. I just think it's really easy for people to cheat
Fake
now.
it. Yeah. Probably
Yeah.
more live coding, interviewing,
Hmm.
screen share the entire thing, your entire screen, so that they can see
Right.
what you're doing. And even if you are using AI, they can see how you're using it. But there'd probably be more of that versus take home projects.
I've seen I've seen some just videos of people hacking even that,
I'm
like
sure.
having
I'm sure it's
just like
possible. Yeah.
a little phone on the side underneath their monitor that's just live listening to the whole conversation and displaying stuff on the screen or whatever.
But what do you do when you get that job and you're not qualified for it at all? Like to me, I'm like, I don't ever want to do something like that because I mean the stakes are that much worse once you get hired, unless you think you can just blend in and get away with stuff. Like I feel like you, and I don't know, maybe that's just me getting old or whatever. Like I want to show that what I can do, and I want my hiring to be a validation of my skill set, not something that I can fake and then just blend in or keep faking it at a company.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and I think they would find out pretty quick.
yeah, it just seems
Like,
like a waste of
like,
everybody's time.
yeah, agreed. I'm sure there are jobs and companies where you could get away with that, but probably not very many.
No,
Maybe not the ones that you think.
I would hope not. But did I send you this or did you send it to me about the guy on LinkedIn um, that was giving his thoughts on like Amazon's layoffs and why they say it's AI, but it's not really
Hmm.
AI taking our jobs. It's more AI just costs a ton of money for GPUs
Yeah,
and nobody has GPUs. And so, but everybody wants to be using it. And so they're having to cut all these costs for things that aren't 100% directly related to revenue growth or AI stuff. And so I thought that was just a very interesting take on it that I hadn't really considered it. It's not AI taking our jobs. It's AI just costing a buttload of money to run and
yeah.
to
I
work with.
I don't think I don't think any jobs have been lost direct. Well, I shouldn't say any. I think very few of any of these layoffs are directly related to AI. But yeah, that article you mentioned is they were saying that the budget at Amazon, they actually just needed more room in their budget to buy like GPUs or data centers or whatever it was. Um, but yeah, I think I see internally, I just like people using AI are definitely more productive and doing more interesting things. But I don't see any places where you could just be like, yeah, fire this guy because he's not using AI, and we're just going to use AI to replace him.
Right.
Like that just doesn't really exist.
No.
It's more like there's maybe some of the middle management layers aren't quite as necessary, but that was the same before AI too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I don't think I think all of this is just, they just are making up an excuse to reduce
Their costs.
their costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because you and I both this week, I think we're using AI to write code, and not even, maybe you were more vibe coding than I was, but I think we both threw away a fair amount of code this week and went back and wrote it by hand. And two totally
Mm-hmm.
separate projects, right? And so, yeah, I mean, there's just
Mm-hmm.
no world where you can just hand something to an AI and expect it to be as good as it needs to be. And maybe part of that's our expectation. We want it to be good code and quality. And so maybe if you don't care about that, and you're like a startup that literally just doesn't care about quality code and cares about only getting something in front of people, maybe you could use an AI to get that up. But in our jobs at GoDaddy and the things that we care about, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, on that topic, so I had talked about this app that I'm vibe coding on the side in previous episodes, and it's like a personal finance app. And I basically just really lazily vibe coded it because I didn't want to spend a bunch of time doing things the right way. I just wanted to like have some fun and see what would happen, and just kind of gave very general prompts and gave it the framework and the tools to use, and sort of guided it. But what I found was I got something going really, really quickly, which was really exciting. But then as I got deeper into it, I had to make changes that were a little bit more subtle and nuanced, like to the data layer and to just how things were working deeper into the app and a little bit more subtle. And what I found is that it very quickly got way too complex,
Mm-hmm.
and I was making a lot of strides early on, building stuff very quickly, but then it slowed down quite a bit. And for me personally, I got way too uncomfortable with not understanding the changes that were being made because I didn't review the code or anything. And eventually, I ended up this week just like deleting most of it. And it felt so good to delete all that code, honestly. And I looked at a lot of it. There was so much stuff in there that was just like stuff that I had tried at first, but then I changed. But that code was still left in there.
Right.
And a lot of this, I think you could clean up with AI because you could have it go back and review things. And I wasn't really doing that. So maybe it's not 100% saying that AI is terrible. It's just more that whole process to me was so uncomfortable,
Yeah.
not understanding what's going on in the code and having this massive code base that then is too difficult to manage. So I ended up deleting it all, going back, and I'm just one by one, like adding things back in by hand, basically. And then after I add it by hand, then I will say, okay, now let's add one more thing following this example,
Yeah.
and then just very slowly. Just very slowly adding stuff on and then understanding everything that's going on.
Yep.
And I like that process so much better. And at some point, I think I'll have enough of a framework of it to where I can maybe make changes more quickly, or
Mm-hmm.
I'll see the AI productivity a little bit more. But yeah, that was where vibe coding ended for me.
No more. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole
Yeah.
finish the owl, right? And so, like, you
Yeah.
start it, you give an example, and you say, okay, now go do this, copying this example, but changing these three things. And I think that's what AI is
Mm-hmm.
fantastic at. And that, if I look at everything that I've done over the past 6 months, when I approach it like that, that provides me the most productivity and the most boost, and still writing good, high quality code. Um, so, well,
So what did you delete
I deleted.
recently?
What did I delete? Oh, it was a whole. So we're building out a hosted checkout solution, and there's a new auth flow that I'm implementing, and I had to do it in a backwards compatible way. And I did things without validating anything. I was trying to do it purely through like what I thought should happen, and letting the AI kind of figure out some things too on making it backwards compatible. And then when I finished everything and I went and tested it. It just didn't work, and there was gaps missing. When I went and tried to have it fix something, it deleted some other stuff, and I was just like, this isn't worth. I think I could have gotten there, like you said, if I spent more time trying to clean it up. I was just like, it's just not worth it. For one, I didn't really fully understand what it was, and it was an auth flow. So like, I really wanted to understand the code that was done. I knew the plan. I knew theoretically what we should be doing from auth stuff, but I wanted to also know what the code was written. And so I went back and I did the finished owl approach to, again, where I was changed to API signatures for all of our API calls for one. And then I was actually using amps tab a whole lot more to just tab through the simple changes for every single API request we had and stuff versus saying to an agent, okay, now go and fix this whole file. And then it's responsible for 20 changes. I was just able to tab, 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 and see that happen a whole lot better because I knew exactly what needed to happen and just wanted to speed it up. And so amp tab, which is like um, Copilot and Cursor's autocomplete or tab complete, really helped stuff like that. But yeah, I mean that's what I
Is
deleted.
that in VS Code?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
The tab?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So not in the
I'll have to
tuning.
try that because I'm still just in the CLI because I really don't like VS Code, but I'm gonna have to get back into it and try like Cursor and VS
Yeah,
Code.
I still don't like VS Code either. But the tab complete is super nice, and just still having all the files right there to review with the AMP chat is really nice. And you can click on, like, it'll always print out the file paths that it edited, and you can click on it and it opens up that file, right? Which you can do that if you have like NeoVim installed with your CLI. You can click through stuff like that as well, and it'll open up NeoVim. But it's just VS Code is like just so easy, but it's there. Yeah, I
Hmm.
still love Zed, but Zed's doing its own thing with AI. I can't really use AMP with it in the way you can with VS Code. So,
Yeah, yeah. You have to just I use Zed with AMP in the
yeah,
CLI.
I don't know. Give VS Code a try, but like, give me an example of some of the
Yeah.
complexity that the agent was creating that you ended up just deleting and being like, this isn't necessary. Like, what was something that did that overcomplicated stuff?
Um. Well, at one point, I tried to have it do like user session. So it would like store the currently logged in user and make sure that that was like part of each request. And the way that it was fetching it was it went into every single TanStack API route and added in the like get user session call in that API
Mm-hmm.
call. And I was thinking like there's got to be a better way to do this, like in some type of middleware or something like that. And then there was just a bunch of stuff that it wasn't even using
Mm-hmm.
anymore. So it would be like, oh, I remember when I first started, I like started with this idea, but then we moved on to another idea, but that code was still there. So I'd have these files that had like I don't know. It was like 1,000 lines of code, and it was only using like 4 or 5 main requests from that code, and then a lot of it was just deprecated, just leftover
Yeah.
stuff. Or it would write these SQL migrations because I was using just SQL directly with Neon. No, I wasn't using
Okay.
Drizzle, and so it would write. I kept changing the data structure, and so it would write these migrations, and then it would just leave all the migrations there, which I didn't tell it to delete it, so it's not its fault, but it was just so much of this stuff that was just there, and I didn't really. I didn't take the time to understand why it was there. So it would have these super complex SQL queries, and SQL is like not my thing. So I don't feel comfortable with these super complex SQL queries and not understanding everything that's going
Right.
on. Like it does this like JSON aggregate thing, and this is probably super simple to SQL people, but for me, I just would rather use Drizzle and make it much simpler, and then add some of the logic to like combine data and stuff actually in TypeScript because that's just more I'm more comfortable
Right.
with that.
So that makes sense. And I mean, you're right because, like, I mean, TanStack has middleware that is how you should be looking up your user session and stuff like that. And so I think we're still missing a whole big gap of training of LLMs on all these other libraries and frameworks and stuff that it's not going to know the exact right thing to do, and you can't expect it to know that either. It's going to get basically the first thing that a pattern matches against, which may not always be the best thing to implement. Because I mean, I had some of that too with Finder deductions and like Next. I'm using Next.js for that, and like it just the whole caching engine for Next is just it's complicated for anybody just reading the docs, and they just didn't know how to use that or how to fetch data, or is always getting like back how to like import server actions appropriately and when to use server and use client and stuff. And so there's a lot that I've gone back and really cleaned up my default app router pages to make sure I fully understand how the data is being fetched and that it's being fetched properly and securely and then passed down. And so I mean I've improved page load times and stuff like that because I've gone back and taken time to actually understand it and optimize it versus just letting the agent continue to loop on stuff as well.
Yeah, and for me, this is a learning project, and so I was realizing that I wasn't really learning anything, and so um, that's one of the things I also wanted to just go back and just learn every little thing along the way. And what's been really fun is not having a deadline or monetization goals or anything. It's just something I can just break over and over and just learn stuff, and that's been really refreshing and fun.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about data models. So you shared this data models. Your data model is your destiny article.
Yeah. Who wrote that? What was his name? Matt
Matt
Brown.
Brown.
Yeah. His whole blog seems fantastic, or Substack or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I read across it from Torsten Ball's newsletter. Oh, dang, what's it called? Anyway, we'll link it into some show notes if we ever have those someday. Or just go look up Torsten Ball and sign up for his newsletter. He's one of the engineers at AMP, and he always has fantastic finds. But anyway, this whole article from Matt Brown is talking about your data model being the most important thing, especially in the age of AI that we're in now, where writing code has become commoditized. And it's kind of in line with what we're talking about now. Is like you can write code so easily and not really care about underneath, or if you do it well, you can write and ship new features really fast and really easily. That Matt's idea or thoughts is that the companies that are going to win and uh, actually provide value are the ones who keep their data model at the forefront and think about it deeply versus just the companies who are chasing other competitors and trying to just add feature to make it look like they're building something and growing something new. And he gave some really good examples on why data models are important. So like one of the first ones he talked about like some comparisons. And first one being like Slack versus HipChat. Did you ever use HipChat? Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
HipChat after AIM was there, along came HipChat, which was Slack, but they were still more direct
Mm-hmm.
message DM focused. And I don't know if I can't even remember if they had rooms or not. Maybe they had like group DMs,
Yeah, I can't
but
remember it.
it was really big shortly after AIM and all that. And I remember using it in one of my first companies. But then Slack came along and they changed the data model. Instead of just having another chat that's focused on direct messaging, they introduced the concept of channels, and channels being the primary model for Slack. It's not people, it's channels. You create a new channel, in that, whether that's private or public, but that's the data model that they've built against. And that made it really hard for HipChat to come along and copy that or reproduce it because their whole data model was built around the direct message, not around a channel. I mean, the same. You can do it for a couple of the same things for Notion versus like Google Docs. Notion is all built around the concept of blocks that you can drag and drop and move around. It's not built around the concept of documents like Google Docs is, but for Google Docs to come and be able to adopt what Notion did with blocks would be almost impossible at this point, because Notion changed the data model. They really focused on what it was that made their business and their idea unique, and they went full force in that instead of trying to copy Google Docs and just build features on top of that document data model. Another one was like Klaviyo and MailChimp. Klaviyo is all focused on orders. MailChimp's focused just on emails. And I think one of the most pertinent ones was Figma versus Photoshop, right? Figma had the concept of a canvas as their data model. And so that allowed multiplayer type stuff, but Photoshop is still focused on files. And so for Photoshop to be able to follow along with Figma, they can't really adopt that concept of a canvas really well. So all that to say, I think it just kind of struck home to me that in the world that we're in now, where you can just spit out code so easily, especially if you don't really care how the code is written and you're just going after feature after feature after feature, it just shows that it's still extremely important to know your business, to know your data model, to understand your market, and to be building towards that and not just building towards the world of I just need to ship more features and ship more code and I'm going to have more users. But you really want to understand why you're doing what you're doing and how you're different from others as a product.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things that's way easier
Agreed.
said than done, because these are not, it's not just like a group of engineers sat around and said, let's build a different data model. It's like they had a fundamentally different view of how the product should work versus the incumbents. And then they took that seriously and built it into their data model. But the more important thing was actually just that they had a better idea for how
That's fair.
things should work. But this is a really important point that I think that you have to make sure that that is built into the foundation of your product, because that will generate wins later on. I think one of the things he mentioned with one of these was it wasn't that they, like, once they built that data model, it wasn't that the new features were these great ideas and they added them on. It was just like their destiny
Yeah.
of their data model, because like their data model just naturally led to those features and conclusions that made them win. And man, this is one of those things where if I was going to start a company and build a product, I would be like, yeah, let's do this. But I have no idea how,
Yeah.
you know?
No, that's what, and I've been having that thought running through my head because there's another side app that I've considered. So my wife dances, and she's all these dance studios have this dance studio software that's just old and atrociously bad and like outdated. And so my is like, oh, I just come do that and redo what they're doing, but just with make it look really nice and work fast and stuff like that. But reading this article, I was like, is that really what I need to do? Because like when you think about it, it's going to be really hard to get small businesses that are already entrenched in these enterprise softwares that are running their entire business on it to migrate over to something new if it just has a prettier skin on it and just is maybe faster and stuff like that. So even in that, I've been like, what is like, is there a different data model for like studio management software that nobody has considered? And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. Way easier said than done. And this guy is like a angel or an investor or whatever, and so he's able to like be up high at the 30,000 foot view and see all this. But yeah, I think still being the creator of Figma and Slack and all those that have those data model ideas is still like getting hit by lightning too.
Yeah. So, yeah. So if you build a software for dance studios, how would you sell it?
That's part of the problem. I mean, and that's right, because when we thought about that, it's been like, oh well, we're faster, we're easier to use, and so I don't think that's going to sell. Because I've talked to some, and one specific studio owner was like, I'll give you feedback, but I have no interest in leaving. Like I've been with this company since 1995,
Mm.
and I don't care what it is. I have no interest in leaving. And I was just like, I don't really have an answer to that for the features that we were going to build, right? I mean, I know it's be like, oh, we could add AI, but like, and she was like, I don't even know what about AI I would be using. I'm 45 years old, and I don't even know. And so it's just, I think,
Yeah.
do you really want to spend your time building an app that's just recreating everything that these other companies with AI can now spin out the same features? Like maybe I have a simple AI feature that tracks attendance or something like that. That I'm like selling that as like, oh, now attendance tracking at your dance studio is easier. But now, I mean, they can just use AI and copy the same thing, and they already have their customers, and there's no reason for anybody to move to my app after that. So, yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer to that. That's just what's mulling around
Yeah.
in my head.
Yeah. I would think about selling, like, I would have to go into dance studios and sell this in person. That would be the only way to do it,
Yeah.
at least to get started. If you're already in there, that makes sense. But then, like, do these people have the money? Do they want to move? This reminds me of so back in the day, this guy Derek Reamer, he built this software that he was involved in email marketing
Okay.
software
Yeah.
Drip, and he was like one of the early employees slash co-founder. And then after their exit, he built this other product that was I forget exactly what it was, but it was really cool. He's like an amazing designer and engineer. He built it all, and it just looked awesome. And I think it was like a Slack replacement, or it was something like that, some type of workflow thing. And it just completely failed, and he was very open about it and wrote about it. And he just said it was too hard to get people to switch because they were just already using this whatever software it was, Slack, or I forget exactly what the thing was. They just had it was a better product, but the friction for switching on something that is as just like built into your workflow as that was
Yeah.
just too much to overcome. And then he one of the great books about indie product development, or any product development that I like, is called The
I
Mom
haven't, no.
Test. Have you read that one? So the mom test is about asking how you validate your product idea early on. And you basically ask people questions that even your mom can't lie to you about. So instead of saying, hey, here's my product, like, what do you think? Oh, it looks great. Like, you ask your friends that and everything. And hey, would you buy this? Oh, yeah, totally. Like, people just tell you stuff that you want to hear because they're your friend, or they don't want to let you down, or whatever. But so you have to ask questions that even your mom can't lie to you about. So it would be like, when's the last time you looked at switching from this provider? And like, what did you do? You went on
Right.
Google. What did you Google? And stuff like that. I forget all the other ones, but it was stuff like that. And if you ask somebody, like, when's the last time you looked to switch from this dance studio software, and like, what steps did you take? And if they're
Never.
like, well, I would like to switch, but I've never actually tried. Like,
Yeah.
that's your answer right there. Is like, it's just too much work for them, and the problem is not big enough for them
Yep.
to seek out a solution. So then
Agreed.
you
Yeah,
have
and that's
issues.
what. Ever since I got that feedback, I've been like, oh, this. I need to spend a whole lot more time thinking about this and talking to people before I keep building any type of a prototype and just
Yeah.
wasting time on that. But that mom test is funny.
See,
It's
if
true.
we're
Right.
engineers, we just want to build stuff. And yeah, we don't want to validate ideas and sell.
Yep.
Like, we just want to build stuff. And that's like the great pitfall of an engineer, is just building and building and building, and never actually getting to the point where you can sell it, because you just don't do any of that other stuff you don't want to do, like marketing and
Yep.
sales. And
True. But yeah, I
yeah.
call that mom test my wife test. Every time I show her something, I'm like, what do you think of this design? She's like, I don't like it. It looks horrible. I'm like, oh, thank you. Thank you very much. She's like, well, what, do you want me to lie to you? Yeah.
At least you're
That's
getting
what she said.
honest
She's like, you want me to
feedback.
lie to you? I'm like, oh, no, but I thought it was a little bit better than that. So,
Nice. What? So, do you want to talk about
yeah, that
Zero
was just a cool
GitHub?
thing. Another thing, I think I actually saw it, but another thing Torsten mentioned in his newsletter, he should pay for ads for us to market his newsletter. But anyway, zero GitHub. I don't know if everybody's seen or you've seen like how you can open up like a repo with VS Code if you prefix the URL with code or something like that. I can't remember what it is. But basically, the zero GitHub idea is if you put zero github.com/ the path to a pull request. So you can just put zero in front of github.com. It'll open up this new view of a PR that's actually really cool. It's a heat map view of your PR. And so one thing that it basically has a higher contrast for more important changes within the PR that you're reviewing, and a lower contrast for like formatting changes or something like that, which is always really like GitHub itself doesn't have anything like that. I mean, I think it's kinda, but or like if it's if it's an inline change, like one word change in the line, it'll be darker than the rest of the line. But this was just a way better heat map viewing of it, and you could also filter it, and you could say, I only want to see the heat maps for things that are above this percentage of importance. Basically, I forget what the term was that they used. So it like completely filtered out all the formatting changes because I did run like a bio format on there and it had a fair amount of changes and it totally removed them so I could hone in on the actual code changes that happened and review it that way. So I think, and I'm very thankful for this, I think AI is going to push much better code review tooling out there for one in the use of AI. And I think Zero GitHub uses AI to analyze the PR to then apply the heat maps onto it. But I think AI is also going to push people to review things more if it is doing the say even half of the code writing that you normally do. You're going to be spending more time doing PR reviews than we did a long time ago when we were just doing peer PR reviews, right? We're reviewing our own code now. So I think it's a cool tool. I want to see more stuff like this and figure out how to implement things like this in my own workflow.
Yeah, I love this. And it looks like they use GPT-5 codecs, and then they ask it to output a JSON data structure that we parse into a colored heat map. So I'm assuming because the coding models are so good, it probably does a pretty good job out of the box of determining what is important and what is not. And then if this is paired with something else, like maybe an AI sort of code review, and then you do a heat map for the manual human review, it really helps you understand
Yeah.
the important stuff to look at very quickly.
Yeah.
I really,
yeah, because
really
again,
like
I don't
this.
want to be inundated with tons of little changes that I don't really need to review, right? And AI should do that because it's really good
Yeah.
at doing that. So, yeah, being able to filter things out is fantastic.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, it was review. It has a should
Yes,
review threshold
that's what they called
that
it.
you can
Yeah,
change,
so I said it like,
which is pretty cool. Seems
how much was it?
expensive.
I didn't even see pricing.
Like, well, I'm just saying if they set up this demo and every time somebody clicks on it, they're running GPT-5 codecs.
Yeah,
I mean, somebody's paying for this. Who is it? GitHub themselves, or is this just a indie
I
dev
mean,
that
I
had come
thought
up with a domain?
it's a company that does it. Let me pull it up on an actual PR. You can do it on any open source public PR, but it's the creators of cmux.dev. They have their own codex manager, Cloud Code codex manager that they've built. So
Okay, got it. So this
yeah,
is like a
probably.
marketing for them. So yeah, that makes
Still probably
sense.
is pretty expensive, but it did seem to cache stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not caching. But anyway, I don't think this tool is it because, like you said, I think it's a marketing ploy by this company. But I'm hoping that we'll see more real world review tools that implement stuff like this that are totally rethinking how you should review code.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. Cool. What do you think? You want to talk about more stuff, or you want to save it to the
Uh,
next episode?
I mean, there's not. I think the only other thing we had to talk about was Cursor and their new update. There's not a ton to say about it. I mean, I think we can just say that one of the coolest things about it was being able to run a plan against multiple models at once. And I think it's just continued to show that they're going down the concept of the user or the developer should be able to pick the models that they want and have full freedom to do that, to the point of even be able to run a plan. Which, I mean, it is pretty cool. You can say, let's start building this plan. We're going to do user management or something like that for my app, and you can pick GPT-5, Grok, and like Sonnet, or whatever anthropic model you want, and it'll do that three plans of that same prompt, and then you can review them, take whichever one you want, or merge them all together to get the best plan. I'm doubtful of how helpful or how much people are going to really use that. That's just a lot of reading. It's a lot of.
Yeah. I can't imagine that there's meaningful
I
differences
think from
between
an initial
those.
prompt, no. I think where you get the biggest benefit is if you do an initial prompt with GPT-5 and then you go to Grok and you say, okay, Grok, review this plan, look for holes in it, and then you go back to
Mm,
GPT-5 and say, okay, Grok found these things. How would you fix them? And you go back to another model. And I think that's where having multi models is super helpful. But yeah, I just don't see the huge win, especially like I think they're thinking you can even write code or have the agent write the code with three different models. So it creates Git work trees, a Git work tree for every model on there, and it'll do that same prompt three different ways or two different ways, up to I think five different ways. But again, that's 5 times that I have to go and review that same code to decide which one is the best one. And
mm.
I'm just like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's too much. I mean, you'd have to have the AI review it and be like, "Hey, take the best thing from each of these. Make sure like
but you're
you
back in
didn't
this.
miss anything. Maybe get an idea like, oh, this one had an interesting idea that I didn't implement over
Yeah, but
here.
then I think
That
you're still
might
back into
work."
the vibe coding world where you still end up with a big mess in the long run. And you either just don't care about it
Hmm.
or you have to spend time fixing it later. So, I mean, again, AMP's going to be my product shill that I always do, but I mean, I just think they have the best thing. You don't pick a model, right? You just start talking to the agent, and they pick the best model for their agent, but they have these really cool personas called an oracle and a librarian. And so you can say, ask the oracle to review this. And it creates another sub agent, and it actually calls GPT-5 or whatever they think is, there used to be 03 or O3 or whatever it was from ChatGPT or OpenAI, but now it's GPT-5, and it will review whatever you want, but it doesn't like clog up your context or anything like that. It's a whole separate sub agent, and it reviews it and it spits back its findings to the main agent. Or you can ask the librarian, and it will go and actually look at public GitHub repos, pull down the source code, review that, and say, okay, here's how this is implemented. So if you're working on TanStack or whatever, you can say, how do I implement a file router? Ask the librarian to look at the TanStack source code on how a file router should be implemented. And it could go and pull that down and get the exact information from the source code it needs, give it to your main agent, and then your main agent goes and works on it. I don't have to sit there and be like, what model is the best one here? Or, oh, wait, I was on GPT-5. I need to switch
Hmm.
to Sonnet to go write code now and stuff like that. It feels more like you're working with engineers, and then you have like super smart computers in the oracle and the librarian to like reference or like get help from. And I just really like working with an agent like that versus having to be continually thinking about what model or just making more work for me. An agent should be removing our work from us, not making me have to review 5 different plans for me to choose which one's the right one, or three different code branches, work trees for me to find the right one. So I think a lot of people will love it.
Hmm.
I couldn't get into it for the half day that I tried it before I hated it
Yeah.
and quit and went back to AMP.
Yeah, I like what you're saying as well. Just let the coding assistant choose the model for me. I agree with that. Whenever we talk about this kind of stuff, I just think of like AI slop, basically, or tech debt. I just wonder what like these sites created with Lovable or any AI coding tool where it's like, hey, you can create this site. All you need to do is like prompt. Can you just imagine when you start adding things onto that site, just how big of a
Yep.
pile of crap it's going to
And
become over
always having
time?
to do that via chat. We were talking about this earlier. There's no CMS or anything like if you say build me a blog
Yeah.
site with these blogs, you don't have a CMS to go and edit a blog. You have to always do it through chat. So yes, you're going to get a mess, and then you're confined to this one
Yeah.
medium of editing it from here on out. And I don't think that's going to be the answer in the long run.
No, probably using an AI to compose the blocks or in
Yeah,
the CMS, that type of a thing is going to be a better way forward. So probably existing CMSs are going to they're probably going to win this race unless Lovable is going to build in their own
probably.
CMS, which I'm
Yeah,
sure they
because I mean they probably
already
see
are
the
working on
problem,
it.
right? But
Yeah.
so I'm sure it'll come.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to go chat for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, uh, thanks for listening to you. You're absolutely right with Wes and Scott. We will
That's
be
right.
back next
Whenever,
week or sometime in the
someday.
future.
All right, see you, man.
All right. See you, Wes.